hey. Come on in during that music. We gave you some transition music, Jane. We're just kind of grooving into this whole thing. Carrier's Edge CEO
Can't hear it.
Jane Jazrawy basically has the latest innovations and outlooks in the industry. It is the future was yesterday, is what we're getting into today. But they are, Carrier's Edge is a sponsor of both that and Edumacation Station. How was your, well, you didn't have a Thanksgiving. You're a Canadian.
That's right. I keep on telling everybody, no, I'm not having Thanksgiving. No, it was, well, no, I haven't had a Thanksgiving, but it was Thursday was good. And I will probably have a good weekend.
I'm
But
hoping so.
I can't hear my music. I didn't know that I had music.
Oh, you had a little bit of,
So,
the music arrived, it was just a wee touch of it, but you can hear my voice, and that's all that really matters, and that's a groovy thing, by
that's
the way.
all that matters, Jimmy.
Yeah,
That's
especially for an
all that
interview.
matters.
If for an interview, it really matters, I mean, it's like if we want to get a chance to talk. Speaking of all that matters, back in the early 90s, we had this thing called the dot-com boom, boom, boom that kind of got started. Really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
do you think we're in a data boom, 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 a data center boom, boom, boom? Because that's very much on your mind
Uh,
today.
Well, it was because, when we're thinking about stuff to talk about, I'm sort of thinking, okay, what's going on? And it's always AI right now. It's always, always, always AI. And so what I do when I want to look for inspiration is I go to Wired magazine because Wired magazine is always talking about well, it's Wired, so they've been covering high tech like forever, since I was in it. So I go and take a look, and they were talking about data centers, and I was like, oh yeah, data centers, which is basically so when you have a server, so lots of people have had servers in their offices. Some people have their own servers where, you basically run things, or like back in the day, everybody had servers, especially when you started getting into personal computers. A lot of trucking companies have their own servers, and a lot of servers that hold their email, or maybe in some of their, some of the systems, their planning or their dispatch or whatever. And what happened was that, as people started getting hacked and there was ransomware and all of that stuff, what started happening is everybody started moving to the cloud. And where is the cloud? We're not putting all of this data into the atmosphere. We're actually putting it on a physical server somewhere, just not in your office or not in your house or wherever you used to have them in the 90s. And so all of these are basically called data centers, and what they are these big warehouses. Think, I don't know, up here we have Costco, but I don't know if you guys have that down there.
Oh no! Oh
But
no!
Costco is like a big.
Oh
You have
no! We
Costco?
got it. As a matter of fact, if you get off right at the Carrollton exit in New Orleans, it is right there, and they're the only. They actually did
Okay.
something that nobody could accomplish in New Orleans. They forced the landowner off the land. How they did it was wonderful. But
Ooh.
but go ahead. It was great what they did. Those guys
But
deserved it. Go on, please.
well, basically, maybe not. A little bit more sinister is that data centers are like a Costco, but full of servers, and they actually put them. I don't know if you've ever seen any like really high tech futuristic type movies, but it's like you go in and it's all machines, and you just have these little hallways that you can go down. And this is sort of where Amazon has all of their stuff. Microsoft has all of their stuff in these data centers. And they're actually inside the data centers, all of these servers, those are called server farms. I mean, this is how many there are, is like football fields worth of just computers that have to be up all the time. And so there has to be you don't want Facebook going down. You don't want your website going, like when websites go down or when systems go down that people are used to using online, everybody kind of goes, hey, oh my God, this is down. This happened a couple months ago, I think, where a whole bunch of systems went down, and it makes the news. So this is why they don't go down, is because the servers are all in these big data centers, and there's automatic backups and things like that. But there used to be, every once in a while, in the 90s, I think, sorry, in the 90s, I think they started, and then in the 2010, 2011, that's when they started to get more and more common. And they would be out in the desert kind of thing, like they'd be out where no one could see them. But now with AI needs so much power to actually generate, like to be used. It needs so much computing power that data centers are going insane how many there are. And right now, well, as of March 2024, there was 5,381 data centers in the U.S. And the U.S. has been the leader, but apparently other countries like the Middle East and I can't remember the other one, but they're also trying to build a lot of data centers really, really fast because this is where a lot of money is right now.
For those of you who still aren't hip to what Jane is talking about, and most of you are, don't forget that movies like Free Guy, television shows like Blind Spot, Live Free or Die Hard, Transcendence, Hackers, Ocean's 11, all of them have movies, all of them have plot points that are highly dependent upon data centers. Some of them explain them better than others. As a matter of fact, the entire plot of Live Free or Die Hard is access to a data center, because what they're doing in that movie, Jane, is they're controlling the entire grid. They're trying to shut the entire East Coast down on the 4th of July and set off monumental chaos. And some of the movies.
I prefer Free Guy.
Yeah,
I
Free
like
Guy,
Free
yeah.
Guy better out of all of those.
Yeah, Free Guy does a pretty
Give
terrific
me some
job.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and Free Guy does a pretty terrific job of really kind of showing what it is. And guys, it ain't just a big warehouse. As Jane said, we're not just talking about a big warehouse here full of like servers. I mean, it has got to be air conditioned and cooled because, man,
Hmm.
everybody knows, Jane, put your hand on a computer that has been on too long with no fan inside of it and see what it feels like. A laptop with, when the fan doesn't run, ooh, everybody's had that heat on their lap before, and everybody's felt that server when things go really, really wrong. So it's a big, giant sucking box, isn't it? A data center.
It is. Well, it didn't, like, when there's one or two, it's
Right.
not a big deal. But as like it's same thing with social media, and part of the problem with technology, like part of the greatness of technology is when it first starts and everybody can sort of experiment with it. But the negative side is when it scales and when things get too successful and too big. And then what happens is the things that were kind of cool when you had one or two of them, like one or two data centers, it's not bad. It's not really bothering anybody. It's like one or two airports in your backyard. But but what happens with data centers is that they take up kind of the same resources that people do, that an urban center does, and that apparently, well, I'll go back to that, but they need proximity to power. That is like electricity, and what's happening now is that the electricity costs are going up a lot, like they're tripling in certain places where there's a lot of data centers because people, data centers want power. That is like the number one thing. So, but they also want telecommunications infrastructure. They want transportation lines and emergency services, kind of the stuff that people want too. So, you're going to have data centers built on farmland and where there are power lines. And so what's happening is that now, because of the boom of data centers and how much money you can make when you have them, because they're very much a moneymaker. What's happening is they're now encroaching on where people are, and they are noisy. They're extremely noisy. They are like, and they're not very nice to look at. Like they're a big warehouse, but that is, hugely fenced off because you need a lot of security around them. And it's really, what's really interesting is that these data centers require so much power. This is the same argument that people were making about electric trucks, is that we don't have the infrastructure. Well, we are getting the infrastructure because the data centers are requiring it, and it's being built as we speak.
Well, the other thing is too is the fact that part of you mentioned redundancy, the idea that there are backup servers and all that. We may get to the point though, given how much of our national security, and I don't just mean like the protection of our borders from foreign enemies, but let's just give an example. The ELD is so dependent upon the cloud, right? I mean, nowadays that kind
Hmm.
of stuff is so dependent on it. Well, you're going to have more data centers because on the outside chance that something happens to one data center with all of those servers in it, you're going to want it becomes almost a military exercise where it's like, why do you have the same thing twice? Because stuff blows up. Why do you have the same thing twice?
Yep.
Because we got to make sure that the supply chain stays intact. We got to make sure that if anybody bad gets inside one of these things, we can shut it off and go to working on the other one. And all of that kind of stuff is playing that the more we depend upon these places, the more of them have to exist, right?
Yep. And then what happens is that the security will go down because there will be too many to be secure. And that's also the thing that happens when a good idea explodes, is that there's all the holes come out. So I can see, we did have I think it was a data center that went down a couple of months ago when we had all the outages. All I remember was trying to get into one cloud service that I had and being really frustrated that I couldn't get, like really simple things that you depend on every day, that you can't download something that you normally are used to downloading. So that's going to be, I think the other issue is that they also use a lot of water. They can go, like, they can use about 530,000 gallons, which is 2 million liters of water per day. And in a time where some places are, really struggling for water, like, have to get it trucked in and things like that, there's going to be competition for resources. And when that happens, prices go up. So it's already happening in certain areas where data centers are kind of, when you don't just have one data center now, like you have a group of them. So someone builds one and then another company thinks, oh, this is a good idea. So what is happening is that the more we use AI and the more that we use things like ChatGPT instead of just the regular, a regular Google search, that actually is creating the need for more data centers because you are using more power. It's like instead of just putting on one light switch in your house, you're putting on the entire neighborhood light switch at the same time for, to answer the same question. So it's going to be very interesting, and it's going to really climb. And I think there's projections that it's the electricity demand and all of the demands of data centers is going to kind of peak in about 10 years and then start going down. But it's still going to be like, it's going to be a rocky ride, I think.
Well, a couple of things here, one of which is incredibly encouraging, and the other of which is you got a good memory. Just recently, guys, I just want to put it this way. How am I going to say this? Faulty bot management actually exceeded its memory limits in its configuration file, and that is what caused 2.4 billion internet users to actually have serious problems, including Jane and myself. I thought that CDL Life, that I was simply having a problem with my security on both my phone and my computer. It turned out that Cloudflare experienced significant outage in its data centers. On the 18th of November. And literally, like a whole bunch of crucial stuff went down across the country and the world. Serious stuff, including on kind of a funny note, CDL Life. All the information, all of its news, all of its recruiting services were all interlinked into Cloudflare. This is the kind of impact it can have on people. I mean, when one of these things go
It's
down, and it's not just about sabotage, sometimes about the system cascading error. There you go.
Well, yeah, or it's just like somebody forgot to do something. So faulty bot management, like
Yeah.
that does not sound like a huge. It sounds like one of those dumb little errors that, someone just forgot to do something and then someone else was sick that day and something happened in the system and nobody noticed. Like that happens all the time. So I don't want to be like doom and gloom or anything like that. But these are the things that can happen. And the more that you know about it, the more that you know where all of this stuff is coming from and how much energy it actually takes. Like to write I was reading an article yesterday just about this thing. But it seems to be that everybody's writing articles about it. It's in the New Yorker, and it's really interesting because it's somebody who did a tour of a data center, and apparently some of these data centers are very top secret. So Microsoft has a huge data center. The person who wrote the article said that it was like they felt like they had 200 phone calls. They had to swear on their firstborn's life that they weren't going to divulge the location of this data center, and before that they could actually go into it and see what was happening inside. So there's a lot going on with data centers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, this is something that, and people are going to have to get used to the fact that this is going to start happening on a regular basis. What caused that one, by the way, was that the people who were in charge underestimated the activity. Is that the system simply, they didn't reconfigure it for what ended up being it crashed. I mean, basically it crashed because they weren't ready for as many bots as they got. So when their bot management service didn't estimate the proper number of bots, it got overwhelmed. And that set off the cascade. And that's from human beings playing guessing games. Or maybe it was AI. I don't know all the details about this, but all of this stuff,
Well,
we're suddenly subject to it all, right?
yeah, well, the New Yorker article is very interesting, and it's not in a paywall. So if you Google, don't ask ChatGPT, just Google it, New Yorker data centers, and you can find it. It's they said they were talking about how AI, it's not the AI queries themselves that take up a lot of power, but what people are doing are training AIs now. There's all kinds of AIs that are being trained for a variety of purposes, and your cameras have AI, ChatGPT, and all of its competitors. All of those AIs have to be trained, and the way that they are trained is by intense computing power. So apparently when you want to train an AI and say you're a big company and you want to, I don't know what you want to do, but you want to you have a data center that you use and you want to train an AI, that can take it down for like a week. The whole thing, the whole data center is required for training the AI. So doing all this AI training is intensely energy. What's the energy? The opposite of energy efficient, energy sucking, I guess you could say, which is why costs are going up.
By the way, guys, the name of the article's Centers that Train AI and Drain the Electrical Grid. A data center which can use as much electricity as Philadelphia is the new American factory, creating the future and propping up the economy. How long can this last? By Stephen Witt, and it's the October 27th edition of the New Yorker. And really quickly as well, too, Jane, a little bit of meta here because we've got a couple of offers out. People from Popular Mechanics, Scientific American. If ever somebody turns you on and you dig them, let Claire know. She'll track them down and get the person who wrote the article to come on. We can talk to them as well. It's the great benefit of being able to do that. So, we've got a couple of offers out because I read Wired and I read all those magazines, and we often extend invitations to those men and women who write those great articles to come in and talk about it in more detail. Anything turns you on, let us know. We'll get them on with you. Part of the benefits of being a regular contributor here.
I'm just like one of those, going down the rabbit hole. Like, oh my God, data centers. Oh my God. And what's happening now is that there are a lot of people. There's a whole website, and I believe I sent that to you as well. There's a whole website that is tracking it's called Data Center Watch.
It's Wired, right? It's Wired.
No, Wired referenced it. It was in Wired. It's actually, the company is actually an AI consultant firm, and they're so they contribute to data centers, but they're also looking at how many people are protesting data centers. So a lot of people are starting to get angry about it, and Georgia is a big one because a whole whack of data centers are kind of converging on Georgia right now. And so the lawmakers are kind of trying to figure this out really fast because people are like, no, no, no. They're really loud. It's not very nice to live near one. And so this is specifically happening in Georgia. If you go to datacenterwatch.org and look at the most recent numbers that they have released, there's a map and it shows like in the sort of in the southeast of the U.S. kind of. But they're kind of on the eastern seaboard as well. There's a lot of them. And so if you go and look and see how many people are protesting them, that's where they're being built.
Listen,
So they're not being built kind of, they're being built where people are, which I think is interesting.
by the way, here is, by the way, from the website, TLDR, which means too long didn't read. Opposition to data centers is accelerating. In Q2 2025 alone, an estimated $98 billion in projects were blocked or delayed, more than the total of all previous quarters since 23. As political resistance builds and local organizing becomes more coordinated, this is now a sustained and intensifying trend, which means they did it under cover of night. People woke up and suddenly had the hums all around them and suddenly discovered that, Jane, they discovered that they didn't like them there and they got organized pretty darn quickly from the looks of this, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening. But like the U.S. currently has the most in the world,
It's 5,000
and
plus,
so
right?
it's yeah, and
Wow.
there's more, and they're talking about the from what I've seen, the people who want to build them, like the people who are in NVIDIA and Microsoft, and like the people who are responsible for building these things are concerned that there's going to be competition from other countries, and that they have to build more. So I think that's an interesting. I don't know. I think it's interesting about where this is going to go. I mean, I don't like the idea. I never liked the idea of farmland being built on, um, and it's always very depressing when I see, an area that I used to live in that was basically kind of like a country area got kind of subdivisionized, and so just build, 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 and you just see all the land disappearing. And if you've ever seen that, it's a little depressing, and I don't know. Do we need to all be using AI right now? I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Is that maybe I'll just I don't need to ask ChatGPT something that I can Google.
Yeah,
That's
by the
kind of how
way,
I'm looking at it.
10 Ring, by the way, says, without producing a product, how do the data centers make money if Google, Blink, Grok are free to use? By the way, I think it's all a big setup, by the way. I think at the end of the day,
They're not making money.
yeah, we're being set up, by the way, for the eventual moment, just like Uber and Uber Eats and all that kind of groovy stuff where they go, okay, well, the discount is over. Now you got to pay for something you become dependent on. I
Yeah.
I sometimes feel I'm going to become dependent upon you, Jane Jazrawy, who always give me such great content. What do you got planned for this weekend before we shuffle out of here? Well, only a minute and a half to go here.
Oh, well, we're in the middle of, it's very depressing, but I'm going to be working because we're in the middle of Best Fleets. So we're doing the Best Fleets to Drive For interviews. And so I'm kind of doing interviews during my work days and doing my regular work on the weekends. So that's kind of where I'm at, unfortunately, but I'm hoping that you have a better weekend than I'm going to.
I actually, the
Some
thing is,
turkey.
well, we're going to be finishing off turkey. Actually, I told this story at the top of the show. Comically, my brother Ryan ordered a Popeyes turkey, which are the best. Period. I mean, Matt Beach, a lot of people swear by it. They delivered it. They got the wrong delivery date. It arrives today. So they had to make the turkey anyway for Thanksgiving, but he's actually going to carve it up and take it over to a homeless shelter tomorrow morning as a way of saying thanks for everything in his life, which I think is really groovy. I might join him on that adventure. I'm working this weekend, but in an exciting way. I got some big plans, and I'm hoping to pull some stuff, a couple of rabbits out of a couple of hats. So I got no complaints. Jane, I love you. This is Jane Jazrawy, by the way, the CEO, the head honcho over at Carrier's Edge, the a recurring guest, of course, an education station, and the co-host of The Future Was Yesterday, in which she did most of the heavy lifting over the data center. Thank you, Jane. Love you, and you can't do anything about it.